My name is Kevin O'Donovan. I'm an Irish guy, live in France. And I'm going to talk about the industrial metaverse. Now, before you all start throwing up and go, oh God, I bet he's lots of definitions and whatever, I don't have any definition. I don't know where we're going to end up. What I do know and what I want to share with you for the next 20 minutes or so is what I see happening in industry today as they're already using or planning to use some of the technologies that will enable us to end up with something that is a persistent, consistent, simulated representation in a digital space of what we're doing in the real world. That makes sense? You're going, nah. Well, in 20 minutes, hopefully it'll make a bit more sense. So who the hell am I? So I've been a technology sales guy for 30 years. I started out with Compaq. I was the technology evangelist for Compaq for OS2. Anyone know what OS2 was? Right? You need to look that up. I'm that old. I've spent my entire career, I ended up being the technical pre-sales director for Compaq, Europe, Middle East and Africa, then HP, joined Intel, headed up strategic marketing for Intel in Europe, ended up running and setting up their energy sales team worldwide. So I spend most of my time working with energy companies, oil and gas, hydrogen, power generation, networks, whatever. And I spend my time going around to conferences like this because I'll be honest, one of my mottos is I don't know what I don't know. So I come here and I find out new things. MTech labs with emotion detection, emotion detection in VR. Amy with the clean box. And I use that tech, what I learn, to then go back to companies and I paint the art of the possible. You know, you could be doing all of this stuff. You could have the latest and greatest headset. You could have a Tesla suit, Sense glove. You'll be doing all this stuff in VR, sharing, collaboration, blah, blah. So I paint the art of the possible. But then I work with that company to say, well, where are you today? What's your reality? And how would they start going forward? I bridge the gap between the art of the possible and where they are today. Now, in terms of, well, what the hell do I know about AR and VR and blah? In 2017, I was watching Shane Lowry on the 18th at the Players' Championship in VR, because Intel was sponsoring it. I worked for Intel, so we were all playing with VR headsets. Anybody remember Daiquiri? Right? Long story. Intel Capital was one of the big investors. So I was working with them, taking it around Europe to various companies, going, this is the future. I have, I think, about 14 avatars. None of them look like me. I host meetings in Altspace VR for other middle-aged white guys in the energy industry who goes, what's teleport? So I try and train them what the hell's going on. And I play way too much Fortnite. Right? So that's me in a nutshell. And the reason I try all of these things is that if I'm out here speaking about stuff, my thing is at least try it. Be enough incompetent that you can make something decent. Now, in the companies that I work with, big and small, if I walk in or they bring me in and they say, Kev, can you talk about Metaverse? And the minute I open my mouth, I'll ask, well, what do you know about the Metaverse? So some of them might say, oh yeah, I was on the latest Gartner emerging technology paper. They're saying it's 10 years away. Okay, fine. They may go, oh yeah, my kids play that, like Fortnite. And I go, I play Fortnite as well. And then they look at me and go, you shoot my kids in Fortnite? And like, you know, who is this clown? And if you're really lucky, they go, I saw this on The Economist or in the Wall Street Journal, $10 billion, and that's what I got. Kev, go away. What are you talking about? Crap. So depending on who you're talking to, you figure out what they know. Now, what I honestly believe is that when you go into a big company, there are various different functions. And what you will find, or what I find, is that if you talk to the marketing department, they're on about having a presence in the metaverse. I want to go and have a billboard in Roblox, or I want something, because the HR guys are onto them as well, saying, come here, we need to hire the cool kids when they come out of college. So how do they get to know us? So we need to be where they are. So we need to do a presence in the metaverse. You talk to the operations guys, and they're going, yeah, we started using we had body cameras, and we started using phone cameras, and now we've got a couple of AR headsets, RealWear, Kyber, all sorts of stuff, because that helps us. We couldn't ship people around for COVID, so we started using AR. You talk to the CTO office, and they'll be going, oh yeah, we're playing with all this stuff. We got digital twins. Oh, they're very cool. And we've got VR glasses, and we've got AR glasses, and we've got all sorts of glasses. So they're off playing with all that stuff. And you'll talk to the guys who are building the next factory, and they'll go, yeah, well, we're designing everything in CAD, AutoCAD, maybe it's Bentley, maybe it's SolidWorks, whatever. Oh, we're building everything in the virtual world first, and then we build it. So you run around and you talk to all these people, and they're all doing bits of what I call building bits of the metaverse. The feature is they're all doing it on different tools, they're all doing it on different platforms, and if you want to try and stitch that together, you're back to my old world where I know how we'll fix that. We'll bring in 10,000 consultants from Accenture for 10 years to redesign an enterprise service bus. It'll be brilliant. Trust me, I'm a professional, right? But that's where people are at. Now, the other thing, and I was chatting with John earlier, a lot of the enterprise companies that are out there that are doing some very cool stuff with all of this technology, they're never going to tell you. I'm going to tell you publicly. And they'll say to me, Kev, if you mention that in public, I'll shoot you. Because they see it as a competitive advantage. So, what's driving all this? The key imperative in any industry right now is you need to digitalize. Digitalize, digitalize, digitalize. And digitalization means many things to many people. COVID did more for digitalization in society and industry than someone like me did in 1,000 years. Because we started using Zoom and Teams. And you go, it's really video conferencing. It was, that's all it is. But what did it do? It changed the way we work. It changed workflows. It changed work practices. What do you mean I have to share a document in SharePoint? I'll just mail it to you. No, we don't mail anymore. We share it. That's digitalization, and it's hard. But if you're in a big industry, it's not just digitalization you have to worry about. What's happening in the chemical industry? What's happening in mechanical, in materials? So they have a very short attention span from when someone clown like me comes in and goes, oh, look at this cool stuff. You really need to do all this. So they're going, yeah, but hold on a second. Oh, this is kind of hard, right? So digital twins. Everyone's got a digital twin. And these are examples of what people will say they have a digital twin. If you're building something from scratch today, you will design it in AutoCAD, SolidWorks. There's hundreds of different software, building in information models, whatever. In most of the industries, especially in the energy industry, most of them will say, well, we built the thing 20 years ago. We have a plan, but it doesn't look anything like it now. So we need to do a LiDAR scan. And we need to build a digital representation of today. So we use LiDAR, drones, all sorts of cool stuff. And we build a digital representation of that. You'll have the guys over here and said, well, we started putting in sensors. Anyone hear of IoT? Right? Well, in industrial IoT. So we put sensors on everything. We're gathering all this data so we know what's going on. Is that pump running too fast? Is it too hot? Whatever. So there's a digital twin, if you like, of the real-time system, and that generates the alerts and whatever. So there's digital twins. Everybody's got a digital twin. And then what's the discussion inside the company? My digital twin's better than your digital twin. Right? And this goes on and on and on. So digital twins are a step along the way. Everybody's doing it. If you went to Hannover Messe, the big industrial conference, 10,000 companies, 200,000 people, everybody was talking digital twin. Nobody was talking metaverse. Everybody was talking digital twin. Now, the other thing is it's 3D everything. Forget digital twin, forget metaverse. Everybody is out there putting in cameras, sensors, body cameras. Some of them are using AR, XR headsets. There's autonomous things crawling around, floating around, driving around, low Earth orbit satellites, drones, you name it. We are gathering data at the rate of knots. In 2018, you can go back and look at this. Enel, biggest utility in Europe, in Italy, Spain, a lot of South America, they built a network digital twin. It was a digital twin of the grid. And the reason they did it was they had trucks driving around with LiDAR. They had guys with backpacks on walking around the side in power stations with LiDAR scanners. They had drones. They had all their IoT information. They were building one version of the truth for their grid. And why would they use that? Because when people started buying more EVs and plugging them in this town, they could figure out if the cable coming to that town was going to be big enough. Nobody's doing any of the digitalization because it's cool. God, I wish it was. When I was a technical sale guy, I would love if they just bought stuff because it was cool. I made a fortune. They don't. They buy stuff because there's a business reason why they're doing it. And digital twins, 3D everything is just happening. Now, in my world, nirvana is that instead of a company having 6 different digital twins, they end up with one digital twin. And what's happening today is they're saying, well, we're getting all the engineering 3D models. We're getting all the IoT data from infrastructure data from Siemens and from all sorts of people. And we have all these other data sources. We have all the manuals over in this system. We have all the spare parts over here. And we have the workflow thing for the guy that goes out and fixes stuff and whatever. And we're starting to amalgamate those into one massive digital twin. And what kind of things will I use that for? So it's not like a big database in the sky or the data lake or whatever. They're going, I want to put it into some platform that will allow me simulate stuff. So Unity. NVIDIA Omniverse. Right? There's all of these platforms coming out there from industrial players who are saying, we'll take all of this stuff because we understand what you've been doing in industry and we will create one super digital twin because I can do a digital twin of this device. But if I'm in a factory, I have 100 of different devices, so I join them together. And I've got conveyor belts and pipes and processes. I want to simulate all them working together. And then if I have a factory, I have an entire digital twin of the entire factory. And then if I'm the local government, it's like, well, you've got a factory, he's got a factory. You're going to have electric cars coming in. You're going to have, okay, we need the utilities to come in. Can we have a digital twin of the city so we can figure out where the traffic's going to go and how much electricity we need and where do we need to put the energy storage and blah, blah, blah. That's what they're building. Now, if you go in and talk to any company and say digital twin and you'll be able to put on VR headsets and you can use AR and blah, 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 they'll go, great. That, I hate to break it to some folks here, that's not why they're doing this. Being able to use VR headsets, AR for an immersive experience afterwards is a nice consequence. But they don't start out with, we need to build a digital twin because we want to use VR. What they do want to do is they want to simulate everything. Now, for transparency, I'm independent, but I do a lot of work with Siemens. I've been involved with Siemens in their industrial metaverse for the last 6-9 months. And at the end of June, they had a big announcement with NVIDIA. They're partnering with NVIDIA for the Omniverse. So if you go to Siemens today and you want to build a factory, they have tools like SimCenter, InX, Teamcenter. You can design your building, your process, your factory, your robot, and they have physics simulators that will allow you to build an entire production line step by step, virtually. You get everything working in a digital model. You connect everything up. You can simulate the entire factory. You can go, what happens if the conveyor belt goes 10% faster? Will some of the robots, will I create a bottleneck? And what they call that is virtual commissioning. So if any one of you want to go off and build a big factory tomorrow morning, you will design it and sign off on it with a digital twin before you ever put a hole in the ground. That is the reality. I'm using Siemens because I work with them. You can go to ABB, you can go to GE, you can go to whoever. They all have this technology. And it is not an animation. It is a physical simulation of how it will work. Fluids, metal, will it break in 20 years? What's the pressure I have to put on this piece of metal? And what they're also doing is it's all built into the big ERP system in the sky, and they go, oh God, the supply chains are killing us. Can't get the metal. So if I get the metal from another provider, you happen to have a smelting factory somewhere, I want your metal. Can you tell me all the characteristics of the metal you will give me? And ideally, you'll give me your scope 1 and 2 emissions, and I'll put that into the big simulation, and I'll be able to figure out, if I switch out that metal for this metal, will it have any implications on the life cycle of the product? Will it break? Is it the same consistent? Because the simulators all do this. and I can figure out if I use your metal instead of his metal, will my carbon footprint go up or down? That's where this is all headed. And they're tying it all together, one version of the truth. You can look at all the videos from NVIDIA's GTC last week, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Lowe's. People are doing this, and this is just the guys who turn up on the keynote. You talk to John, you talk to Lisa, you talk to anyone else that's working with big enterprises. They're all doing it, but they said, don't tell anyone, because it's our competitive advantage. But it's all about digital twin. I'm going to hook soon. Now, this is an old one. This dates me as well. And as you're reading this, this is the challenge with digitalization. Digitalization's hard. And even if it is getting people to use Zoom, right? There was a different etiquette for going on Zoom. You can't just jump in, raise your hand. You would be amazed at the amount of senior executives that I work with that haven't figured out how to raise their hand in Zoom or Teams or whatever. These are very clever people. And you're like, good God. So digitalization is hard. And in my world, depending on who you talk to, 70 or 80% of all digitalization projects fail. And for folks that know me, one of my taglines is, hey, technology is the easy bit. It's when us humans get involved, it is very complicated. We make things complicated. And why do we make things complicated? Everything we do with digitalization is about change. And if I need to change something, well, us humans sometimes don't like change. We resist it. And it can be for all sorts of reasons. So I was in Intel. We were going cloud. So I was running around Europe with a lot of our big partners, going to all the IT directors and all the big companies going, you need to go to the cloud. This is going to be great. This is like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, right? And they were going, Kev, over my dead body, go away. And I'll tell you what we figured out pretty quickly. So we were going in with them, you move to the cloud. You don't have to build your own data centers, so you don't get CapEx budget anymore. You don't have to have 100 people running the data center. They'll all go to Amazon or they'll go somewhere, you'll be grand. And the IT director is sitting there going, hang on a second, you're saying I'm going to have a smaller budget, less people. When I'm sitting around the boardroom table, I don't have as much power. That's a great idea, Kev. Come back to me in 10 years. So what do? We went off and spoke to the CFO. Right? I lost a lot of IT friends for that, but the CFO was like, what do you mean I can save 30%? So you find the right customer. Point being, it's all about change. And the other thing in my world is people have technology fatigue. Right? There's a CEO of a very large energy company who I walked in 4 or 5 years ago when I was in Intel, and he goes, Kev, you're back. We still haven't figured out what to do with the stuff you sold us 2 years ago. And now you're back selling us the next great thing. You know, thanks. Go away. Seriously, there's so much change coming at us. There's a bit of technology fatigue. And you guys, I came here because, again, I don't know what I don't know. I want to see what the cool kids were up to. So I learned a lot this week. But that's kind of what I do. Most IT directors or the people you speak to, they might spell augmented reality. They probably can spell Metaverse. But other than that, it's like, you've got 5 minutes. And then they go, okay, okay, great. And you go, hang on a second. Okay, so we'll have augmented reality. We'll have the stuff pop up and we can train all the guys. And you go, great. We'll buy 1,000 headsets. And then some guy from the IT department will tap you on the shoulder and say, what information are you putting on the screen? Oh, all the user manuals. Because the guy will be out in the field and he can pull up any manual because all of them are there and things. And the guy, they are, yeah. There's 4,000 physical manuals in that cabinet. How do I get them onto the screen? And if you're the augmented reality provider, you're going, well, that's not my problem. And it isn't. But I'll tell you what, there's no value for the company because they have to go fix that first. And they come back in 10 years. Or the other favorite one, you go, I've got the best headset and I've got cool gadgets and cloud services and whatever. You go to an American utility company and you say, we're going to do all this and we'll have augmented reality and whatever. Say, great. We really need this because we can't hire enough people and we can't train them fast enough so we can do all this. And then there'll be some guy in a grey suit walk up and say, oh, cool. Are you NERC-CIP compliant? NERC-CIP is the regulation in the US that if any information on a critical asset touches any piece of technology, here's 1,000-page document that you need to fill out. It's horrendous. And if you don't meet the criteria to get your risk level assessment, blah, 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 you can't implement the technology, because if you do, they will sue your ass for billions. Right? I must be cheering ye all up, am I? Right? Now, I'll be dead honest. I am convinced we will end up in something, what do we call it, the metaverse, or what do we call it? I don't know. It is inevitable, because to me, the metaverse is just the next step in digitalization. It is the amalgamation of a lot of different technologies, whatever we call it, but it will end up in some sort of a digital twin on steroids, whether we call it a virtual world or a metaverse, but we'll be able to simulate things, we'll be able to speed up things. And one of the key things that NVIDIA and Siemens are working on is that you create a photorealistic version of your factory. And what do you use that for? The robots that are running around the factory, instead of training the robot physically in the real world, you train the software in the robot in a digital twin. And if you're doing autonomous driving, I can do autonomous driving on steroids. I can make a digital twin of a city. The car sees a piece of software. It doesn't know it's being fooled that it's in a virtual world, because it's all photorealistic, and the LiDAR scan is telling me that this is all fine. And you train the car, and you can train the car for situations that you cannot train it for in the real world. Right? Let's get people from different races to walk across the street in a badly lit part of town, and we'll see if the Tesla will miss it. You know, who wants to volunteer for that job, right? So you do that in the simulated virtual world. That's why they're doing this stuff. So I am convinced we're going there. It is inevitable, but we're not going there because they want a cool AR experience or a VR experience. That will be a value add you can add on. Because what they're looking at is they say, we're doing VR training in our company today, but we had to hire a company in, they built this model in Unity or whatever from scratch, and it's great. But if we change anything in the real world, we have to hire them back in to change everything. So if they go, well, if we can have one version of the truth, one central digital twin, so when I change anything, it's automatically changed, and then what they do is they train the workers in it. So I've been working with a company, and here's the design, and the guy will come in the morning, and he'll pick this up, and he'll put that there, and he'll put that there. What they figured out in the VR was that actually he'll have to lean over a bit. And they go, if you're doing that 50 times a week or 1,000 times a week, you're going to back pain. We're going to sued. That table needs to be 30 centimeters closer. Cool. Now, what about the robot that's over here that's swinging around? We have to move that as well. All virtually, all digital, all virtual commissioning. This is happening. I am convinced that this is the road we're on. So whatever we call it, the metaverse, the industrial metaverse, don't know. If I knew that, I'd make billions. But we're going there, and that's what we're up to. So if you agree, disagree with me, chat to me afterwards, and if I can help anyone, as I say, bridge the gap on some of this stuff between us old fuddy-duddies in these industries and the cool kids. But we got to bridge that gap. Otherwise, we will not make this a reality. But I guarantee you, this digitalization is not slowing down. So, and if you think it's fast now, buckle up. It's only going to get better. That's it. I'm done.